Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. Facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, whichever is the best way, easiest way, the one that works for you to get at us, comment on the show, see what we got going on, and of course a whole lot more, as we often do. That's the right place for you to be as we continue our dual missions to have live local talk radio in the borderland, because damn it, I still think we deserve it and will not be dissuaded from that opinion, but also to talk about the things that affect us here, because no one else is going to have that discussion the way we do, and we got a lot to discuss today in particular. Among other things, already making some national headlines, among other things. More response also coming into a massive fire at a Juarez immigration station area, that detention center actually as well, leading to dozens of deaths and more injured as well. So to breaking that down, what's going on, the even national response coming to that already, and well, just a whole lot more involving that situation, as there is still more details coming out about that. Also, more details on what's going on within El Paso City Council today, including the approval of that collective bargaining agreement between El Paso Police and, well, the city of El Paso, deciding that, as well as what are some of the numbers being considered when it comes to the future potential contract for the next city manager. So a lot to delve into there. Also some other interesting ones, including details on the look inside for those that aren't employed there, myself included, but have wondered, the giant Amazon fulfillment center that is in the Far East, among other things. Also breaking down some of the things coming out of the Texas legislature, some budget numbers, some bills that are moving forward, as well as just actions in the rest of the state, including, it had been brought up, what's going on with Austin police, so kind of a juxtaposition there. We'll break that down, as there is, more help being offered there. Let's just put it that way. So a lot to get into, a lot to discuss today, and we'll be, of course, taking y'all's comments. Marky Mendingo demonstrating very well there. Appreciate that. My favorite time of day. Good afternoon, Mr. Polk. To you as well, Mr. Mendingo, dropping those likes and reacts as well over in the comments. Flaco Jimenez, do appreciate that. And we'll be taking those phone calls a little bit later, including one that we had squeak in right before we got onto the air, honestly, before we had the phone lines the way they are, asking about the Pelicano project. Got a couple of answers we are able to scare up immediately. So stay tuned for that as well. We got a whole lot to discuss today. So let's just go into the details here. Statement sent to our newsroom not too long before airtime today from the Hope Border Institute, at least responding to the death of migrants in Ciudad Juarez. At least 39 migrants died and 29 were gravely injured last night due to a fire at the Instituto Nacional de Migración, National Immigration Institute Migration Center in Ciudad Juarez. Statement goes on to say, as we also have Ida Beza Gardner joining us over there. Hello to you as well. Statement from them goes on to say, we are horrified by the loss of dozens of lives last night in our border community. Going on to say that the Biden administration's increasingly aggressive posture on migration enforcement and deterrence for strategies at the border have pressured Mexican authorities to stem migration in an already overcrowded and under-resourced system, resulting in fatal tragedies such as the one we have witnessed last night. In the months following the Biden administration's expansion of Title 42, we have witnessed increased enforcement actions by Mexican authorities and the detention of persons in the facility where the fire broke out. And also going on to address blame, resource funds, also statements by like the bishop, among other things, as it's a very serious situation. And even the president of Mexico, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, AMLO, speaking about that, and just a lot of even national reporting coming out on this, as we also have John Browse, Lieutenant Austin Redfern. Greetings, Talk El Paso family, chiming in over on the social media. Do appreciate that. So some of the things that AMLO said as of today, in any case, that the fire was started by migrants inside the facility in protest after learning they would be deported. Saying, quote, "They never imagined this would cause this terrible misfortune," adding that the director of the country's immigration agency was on the scene, as is also borne out by tweets from the INM Twitter account. And focusing on that. And so the deportations, and now we're talking about this happening within Mexico. And this, of course, comes after a whole series of events. And there's a lot of different reporting going on to it. El Paso Matters has a decent breakdown over on their site today, talking about earlier in March, towards the start of the month, that article titled "Mexican Immigration Agents Raid Juarez Hotel and Church, Inspect Migrants' Documentation." That was an example, but then, of course, it felt like there was another level that was reached after article title "Hundreds of Frustrated Venezuelan Migrants Block Bridge Linking El Paso and Juarez." That protest happening, again, a little bit later, about midway through March, certainly leading to a lot of response. No successful crossings in that attempt that I'm aware of anyway, as American authorities were able to respond in kind. But, well, in response to that, and given the fact that those international bridges, including the Free Bridge, was shut down for at least 5 hours and a good chunk of the day surrounding it on that particular day, Juarez mayor says city will crack down on migrants, urge residents not to give money to panhandlers. Now, this goes beyond just the local response, among other things, more checks, more inspections, etc., because this was a national policy being discussed. Again, AMLO having put forth that more essentially deportations would be going on internal to Mexico. So this actual facility that we're talking about, the one that was set on fire, according to, again, Mexican officials on this, not too far from the Santa Fe Bridge near downtown El Paso, and El Paso being mentioned in a lot of these reports coming from across the state and even across the country at this point. And Eric Holstein Rathel asking, are these the same migrants who stormed the bridge last month? Not totally clear if they're the same individuals involved, but similar populations, I will say, have been cited. Venezuelans are being pointed to as a significant portion of those that were detained in this facility, though others are also quoted as saying that Central and South Americans in general housed there. Guatemalans is another one that I've heard mentioned specifically from reporting on both sides, including from Mexican sources on this. Marky Mandingo, yeah, mattresses definitely did not meet fire codes. There was already some movement towards greater enforcement, and again, the crackdowns that we've been seeing here. My argument today on this, besides the human tragedy on this, is a further symptom of the pressure cooker nature that we are seeing kind of along the border in general, but also very specifically here in our area, because with some of these changes in immigration policy that we have been seeing, the potential changes that will be coming up with the sunsetting of Title 42 as federal pandemic regulations eclipse or are ended when it comes to that, again, May 11th, another one of the ones that is going to be hotly anticipated and already has been by local officials, among other things. County Commissioner's Court requesting some advanced funding from FEMA to the tune of about $24 million, if I'm not mistaken, saying that we are expecting there to be a lot of response. So further symptoms, I think, of this situation where we are seeing greater enforcement, but maybe not any of the pressure relief valves that have been previously seen. And therefore, well, if anyone's ever tried to take out the lid of a pressure cooker that hasn't or seen pictures of such, it can definitely get messy. Now, of course, that's a physics lesson as opposed to a humanitarian situation, but I gotta say it's the best apt analogy I can think of in this case. So without any pressure relief valves or ways around or about this, new policies being put forth, there has been some use of Title 8, the existing policy that involves going through immigration courts, as opposed to Title 42, which was effectively immediate removal. But with that no longer being possible, there has been, of course, a lot of focus by the administration. Some of the policies, I think, being referred to essentially in apostrophe by the Hope Border Institute in their statement, comes around to the idea of you have to apply outside of the country. So kind of, again, an amalgam that I've been arguing for a minute now of first safe country and outside processing, essentially MPP, Migrant Protection Protocols, so-called Remain in Mexico policy by another name. Not exactly the same, but you can definitely see some similarities from there, among other things. So some further statements coming, including by other local officials. But Bishop Mart Sight saying, quote, up here on hearing of last night's news in our sister city, I express my deepest and most heartfelt condolences to the families of the 39 migrants who died in a tragic fire at the migrant detention facility in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. I also extend prayers of life for the swift recovery of the 29 individuals who sustained severe injuries in the incident. I've been in contact with Bishop Jose Guadalupe Torres Campos, expressed my prayerful solidarity with him and the faithful of his diocese, and offer support to him and the people in his pastoral care in the diocese of Ciudad Juarez. This tragedy underscores the urgency of addressing the complex humanitarian crisis that has continued to unfold unabated on our border community. And similar types of statements from El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser. We were very saddened to learn of the tragedy that unfolded in Ciudad Juarez, as well as State Senator Cesar Blanco and Representative Veronica Escobar, among others, noted there by our news partners at KFOX 14. Definitely agreeing with Willie Jenkins commenting, very sad situation, not a good one. But again, I am not exactly hopeful at this point in time that we will not continue to see incidents like this if the current status quo is maintained. Either more action is needed one way or the other. I gotta absolutely say that. I mean, the enforcement that we've been seeing on this side of the border has been one of our major focuses, make no mistake, particularly with DPS troopers and even Texas National Guard troops still present even along the borders and section in our area. But without the adjoining, the other side of the coin, the immigration policy part of it, I just don't have much reason to believe that maybe not this specific type of incident, but this has not exactly been isolated on its own as an otherwise rosy situation. Let's put it that way. So that's one of the things definitely being brought up here. We got a few other things involving the border that I want to make sure we get to, including more details on that cross-border Texas DPS chase that happened, I think, just over the weekend, as well as a note on a U.S. veteran who died in Juarez after being deported. So we'll talk more about that, as well as some more other things going on involving city council and what is going on with that, some of those votes going on today. So let's go ahead and take that break right now. You are, of course, tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Phone lines a little bit later, as we usually do. But in the meantime, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this brief break on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound approaching red. An accident involving a couple of vehicles is off on the right shoulder, causing some slowing. I-10 westbound slow from Rustler up to Artcraft with 5-minute delays. I-10 eastbound, 8-minute delays between Trans Mountain and the 54 Patriot. I-10 westbound near the Las Muchas exit, a semi is blocking the right shoulder. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Are you tired of listening to stories that are saturated with wokeness? If you are, then you should try Red Pilled America. We tell good old-fashioned stories that align with middle America values. Listen to Red Pilled America anywhere you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Is your tub worn out, but you're not sure who to trust to replace it? With over 2 million successful bath remodels, people trust Bathfitter because we know how to do it right. We've been custom designing and manufacturing baths for over 35 years. Our unique tub-over-tub installation takes as little as a day with no demo to fit your busy schedule. And we offer a lifetime warranty on every tub. That's how confident we are in our quality and durability. Bathfitter, it just fits. Visit bathfitter.com to book your free consultation.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, beat the largest timeshare company in federal court and has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-738-9900. That's 800-738-9900.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one. I'll also find us over on similar pages. Yes, YouTube is back up, Talk El Paso channel on YouTube, but Twitter and Twitch.tv as well. So whatever works for you. And all the places that we are up and intend to be up, that's a good place for you to be as we talk about the things affecting us here in the borderland. One note, an addendum to a situation we described to you yesterday involving whole cross-border situations. El Paso Matters reporting on an article titled, "A Texas DPS Officer Attempts to Make Arrest in Juarez After High-Speed Chase Across International Bridge." After we were waiting on more statements coming out from DPS on things like that. According to the El Diario de Juarez, the DPS officer returned to his vehicle and locked himself in and was detained there by Mexican authorities for 2 hours before being allowed to return to El Paso. And entering into Mexico for a law enforcement purpose, that like an explicit written agreement, is not a usual thing. And so a lot of those videos on social media is very interesting. But according to Jorge Alberto Buchan Martinez, commander of the Mexican National Guard garrison in Juarez, after a press briefing later Monday on Juarez, he's saying that, quote, "He crossed involuntarily. It wasn't familiar with the boundaries. He did not notice that it was an international bridge. That's why we understand that's how it was handled, an involuntary incursion." So interesting resolution there, to my understanding. The person that was being pursued by that state trooper was also released here. Another interesting story that has been percolating through from the noted by El Paso Matters here, but also from the Puente News Collaborative in general. A little too late. Family mourns deported U.S. veteran who died in Juarez. I know it's a minor story compared to the overarching ones that we go into, but certainly incredibly important to those involved with it, about people who served in the U.S. military but were deported and end up, there's a whole population of them there. So let's talk about support for veterans. And also, when we talk about the issues going on with immigration, there's often a collision in between them. And a lot more commentary on these situations. RJ pointing out that, yes, the YouTube is back up, though. I'm sure it'll take a minute for some people to gravitate back towards there. We're still working on keeping that up. And but Willie Jenkins saying, prayers for families who suffered loss. Absolutely, because, it's a tragic situation we are talking about with a whole lot of sources, causes, and Willie Jenkins specifically asking question: is America a cause? Is Mexico a cause of this? Or what does entitlement and lax enforcement laws have to do with this? And how are these things happening going to change hearts and minds? That's a decently complicated question, so I want to take a minute here to try and break that down. So it's of no doubt in my mind that policies of the U.S. are certainly a contribution to this. I'm not saying it's the only one, so stick with me here for a minute, because the shifting policies. I mean, even when it was over the last few administrations, there has not been necessarily one universal policy that has been in place. It's certainly changed between administrations, and even within administrations, what has been in effect. I mean, the amount of court cases, imagine, of the previous one, and even the ones so far in this one, involving what policies can or cannot be, the whole back and forth that was on Title 42 on its own before the kind of final last action anyway about removing the Supreme Court's case on it, because the issue was going to be rendered moot before it actually appeared before the court due to the federal removal of pandemic era policies that is again expected May 11th. Certainly an aspect of it. And again, greater enforcement, lack of pressure relief valves. I mean, responsiveness would be an important thing, and I think we're seeing symptoms of that as well. But this is not to say that the U.S. is the only thing about this. Mexican-style policies and what they have going on is absolutely a contribution to this. I mean, if you want to be specific of this incident, the announcement of deportations of those that were within this detention facility is noted as one of the kind of inciting reasons for this. Not calling it justified by any means. I don't think anyone would think that, oh no, this was a totally reasonable protest that resulted in dozens dead. Absolutely 100% not. And yet, given the shifting policies that we've seen from Mexico as well, at the very least what can be seen on this part, whatever is being decided internally, whether it be the previous policies, previous generations of policy, honestly, of a long as you don't stay in Mexico, keep on moving through, we're going to turn the blind eye, to the crackdowns happening on their southern border with, say, Central and South American Central American countries, but also those coming from South America, of course, to the anti-migration that we talked about, where there was not exactly a just keep on moving, but a blind eye turned in a different and more formulaic way, to now there being bigger crackdowns, even as AMLO, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, president of Mexico, basically spurns most attempts put forth of interaction with the U.S. So I'm not going to exactly call it schizophrenic and all over the place, but consistency has not exactly been a part of it, I would have to argue. So the fact that these people who were expecting to probably be camped out here for a while, and I think RJ actually put it pretty well. Well, after a 2,000-mile trek through hell from Venezuela and Colombia, paying the cartels, and then getting deported, what would you do? I mean, putting yourself in that position, it's not a good one. I mean, no part of this is something that I would voluntarily want to find myself involved in. And so the idea of these shifting policies, and even something that we don't really see in this community, but has been noted in some of the reporting involving this incident, is that Mexico on its own has been doing more enforcement at its southern border again now. I mean, there was the whole reformation that could be seen primarily during the Trump administration of the Mexican National Guard, Guardia Nacional, into essentially a border security force, and maybe not as prevalent in our area, apparently very active in the, again, southern parts of Mexico itself. And some of the policies they are actually implementing as well, involving that you have to apply and stay in for asylum processing, etc., in the first Mexican state that you appear in. So as opposed to those who are expecting to come in and then continue to progress through, it's being stuck in, those border territories with the neighboring countries of Mexico. So to call this complicated would be a massive understatement in my mind. But the fact of the matter is, again, not going to call this a rosy situation by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, we've still got quite a lot of impetus that is happening when it comes to the cartels, the marketing, the smuggling that we continue to see here. I feel like it's been on the order of weekly, if not daily, but at the very least weekly, we hear incidents happening in our area of either smuggling, human smuggling, stash houses, etc., and across almost all scopes and spans of town, among other things. So there is a whole lot of contributions to this. So if you want to, as with most things, trying to pin it on one circumstance, one person, one incident, yeah, there are a whole lot of people and organizations, levels that I would argue are absolutely culpable in this. But to your final part of your question, I know we've gone on here a minute, but to the idea of how are things happening to change hearts and minds, I do got to say that's really that statement from the mayor of Juarez after there was that protest / crossing attempt at the bridge, depending on who you ask or how it's described, may be a change of heart being seen there. Again, not that there was always a whole lot of, oh, it's just whatever from Mexican and specifically Juarezes, but I gotta say that maybe some changing attitudes could be possibly seen as part of that. because frustration and okay, fine, as long as you're not impacting us, you can do what you need to and wait to do what processes are available to you, depending on U.S. policies. But oh no, now you're messing stuff up for us. I do wonder, and would be interested to know if anyone has perspective from that on that side of it. There is, well, a lack of patience, or patience wearing thin, among other things. So, and that's probably a gross understatement there as well, given the seriousness of what's already going on. So this is so much to say, I don't see this getting better immediately. It's probably going to get worse. I hope it won't, but I don't feel much prone to optimism in this circumstance with what we're talking about, both within this both sides of the border that we can see within our broadcast range in our community. But we'll, of course, keep our eye on it. There's a whole lot more that we're going to be talking about today, though. Of course, this is certainly an overarching one. I mean, reporting going on locally, statewide, nationally on this instance and this incident, and we'll see if anything is prompted further by this. But we also got some specifically local things that we'll be talking about a bit more, including a couple bits of action from City Council, as well as, well, excusing in what we can, coming out of the Texas legislature so far. So still focusing on all the things that we try to, taking that next break right now. A lot of comments coming in. We'll keep delving and dipping into those, among other things. So let's take that next break. Coming out of this, more talk about the things affecting us here in the borderlands, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. At least 40 people were killed, dozens others injured after a fire broke out at a migrant detention center in Juarez. The fire started last night at the National Institute of Migration, which is right next to the Santa Fe Bridge. According to Mexican officials, migrants from Venezuela started the fire after learning they would be deported. Migrants on the streets of Juarez today are calling for accountability and say the government is to blame for the tragedy. The city of El Paso has approved major pay raises for police officers. City Council voted unanimously today to approve the pay hikes as part of a 4-year collective bargaining agreement with the police union. Entry-level police officers will see a 13% increase in salary, senior-level police officers a 15% increase, and sergeants will get a 17% increase. The city will now need to budget for the pay raises, which will add millions of dollars to the overall budget in the next several years. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Slow traffic on the I-10 eastbound this afternoon from Trans Mountain to the 54 Patriot, 8-minute delays. Traffic's a little slow on the I-10 westbound side from Wrestler up to Artcraft with 5-minute delays. That accident I-10 westbound approaching Red is cleared. All lanes are back open. And 2 disabled vehicles up on the right shoulder I-10 westbound after Cotton at Brown. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. The breezy to windy conditions will die down as we go through the overnight tonight. Cold one for tomorrow morning. We'll see lows in the 30s and 40s, so grab a coat or jacket if you're heading out early. Very nice weather for your Wednesday afternoon, high around 77. But enjoy the weather on Wednesday. We're going to see partly cloudy and windy conditions return for your Thursday and Friday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Our American Stories.
You've probably read The Lorax and the Grinch, but do you know the story behind the stories? We'll have the story of both of them. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's forhims.com/radio for your free online visit. forhims.com/radio.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Staples Print and Marketing Services help small business print big. Now get $15 off signs, banners, and posters when you spend $75 or more. Offer ends 4/15. Visit staples.com/printbig for details. This is your sign to try Staples, where prints are perfect, guaranteed. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day.
I don't watch television, so I get all my news from you.
News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube. Yes, we are back up there. Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we're getting into here today. Yes, quite the focus on what was going on and is still unfolding in Mexico, as pointed out by Eric von Holstein Rathlow. Update from our news partners at KFOX 1440, now credited as or cited as being dead after that fire at a Juarez, Mexico immigration facility, detention center, actually, more specific. So, yeah, there's still probably a lot more that will be coming out of this here, but still got a lot of other local stuff to talk about as well, including a question that had come in from a listener right before the show, actually asking what was going on near Pelicano outside of Loop 375. And let's just say, looking into that right now, there's quite a lot of background on it. So it's a Pelicano Drive widening project, according to the El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization, MPO for short. Think of it as the organization of all of the interested parties when it comes to transportation and roads in our area. So it's not just TxDOT, not just the city, not just the county. It involves kind of all of them having discussions and planning on this, because sometimes a lot of projects can affect more than one entity, even across state lines, among other things. So that one, some of the original things and reporting I saw that going back to August of last year, but even reporting from our news partners throughout a decent part of the start of this year, including setbacks and being delayed 5 months on that due to various issues with the project. So for that listener out there and anyone else wondering about that, noted, among other things, one of the construction companies involved with it, because the county's partner, the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority, and JAR contracting the contractor for it, saying that the Regional Mobility Authority failed to secure the right-of-way in multiple areas, had design problems, and had not paid the company since July. So, yeah, there's at least a 5-month delay, noted as of the end of last year. So definitely still in that window, among other things. So I hope that answers that question. A couple other things coming out of and around City Council today, as noted by our news partners there at KFOX 14, heard in the news update. Unanimous approval of the El Paso City Council and Metropolitan Police Officers. Sorry, I might be mixing my acronyms here, but with the Police Officers Collective Bargaining Agreement. That include, among other things, pay raises across the board for even the most junior to senior officers, as well as that increase in pay, a stipend one time for cadets of $10,000, as well as just a whole lot more specifics in there. They broke down some of it and was pretty unanimously passed by the organization itself, the EPMOA. Let's get that acronym right. And so that has now been signed and will be going through at least for the next 4 years. Though the one that I really wanted to mention in this space was the discussion of plans to hire the next city manager. Now, we talked about some of the retention of a firm coming on yesterday, but some of the numbers actually going into this and the analysis is being done is more interesting to me, because the actual process, the way it is being laid out, is going to be, among other things, they are going to have the quote-unquote opportunity to review city manager salaries in 27 Texas cities. Now, these comparisons on some of them specifically is very interesting to me, and I'm sure will be interesting to some of y'all, as harkening back to what John Browston said at the start of the show, saying that no more than $250,000 for the city manager. After all, he's a city employee, not a god. I would imagine God would make more than $500,000 a year, but maybe that's just me. In any case, some of the numbers being compared to, noted by our news partners over at KFOX 14 and CBS 4 Local, that the average salary for the top 5 city managers in San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, and Fort Worth, and Arlington is $386,000 per year and change. Let's call it $387,000. If you round up, it's pretty close to that. So that is an interesting one. Then says for the for 18 city managers in the presentation, the average salary is $305,000 and change. So there are some, I don't know if that's going to be totally palatable locally, because among other things, El Paso is one of the largest cities in the country, and yet it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison if you're just looking at within city limits, given the lack of major things surrounding us. It's often stood out to me that, El Paso, by just sheer numbers, city limits, population-wise, is bigger than like a lot of municipalities in, say, Ohio. Stay with me here for a second. And yet the fact of the matter is that, well, we have a bigger population, and yet they've got, like, in Cincinnati and other major cities there that have populations within city limits of like 300,000, give or take, that they've got several major national sports teams, among other things. So wondering, like, okay, why do they have that and we don't? It's because, in our case, El Paso is not exactly how a lot of other places have ended up growing. I mean, sure, we've got some of those smaller municipalities in the outskirts of El Paso County that have been growing in their own rights. I haven't forgot about our commenter from out in the Horizon area by any means, but at least one of those was just let's just get the hell out of El Paso, make our own city kind of situation. And that's not usually how it works. Usually there's little settlements all over the place. That's, well, LA is a good example of how, like, sure, Los Angeles is one municipality, but there's a ton if you actually look at like an aerial view or from like the mountains that I've been out there visiting, and they've all now grown together. So it's a huge metropolitan area with each individual municipality having their own definable populations. El Paso, pretty much bulk of the population of this county is absolutely within the city of El Paso. So some of these places, like the fact that we refer to Dallas-Fort Worth as one entity, when really it is several actually distinct cities in and around the area, there's not really suburbs. Again, some of them are bigger, some of them are growing, and eventually, El Paso and Las Cruces will probably connect directly, entirely urbanized. But to say that these are exactly apples to apples comparisons doesn't smack totally right for me, because sure, again, based solely on population within city limits, there may be a similarity, and yet there ain't that much around us either. The population base is pretty much within the city limits, which is not the situation for a whole lot of these other areas. So that's kind of my gripe I have with actually this type of analysis of, well, this is what the other cities do. Okay, what about like the surrounding areas? What about the metro area that they involve? I mean, sure, we refer to El Paso and Juarez and Las Cruces, one of the biggest things I think about here, and yet we often get segregated a whole lot of ways when it comes to those other parts of it, considering we're talking about not even just different municipalities, but different states and or countries. So again, apples to apples just does not fit for me. Someone feel free to argue with me about that point. The last point I want to make when it comes to the recruitment specifically is that in the presentations, again, further noted by our news partners, that there are going to be different ways that the recruitment could happen. Number one is listed as conducting recruitment in-house. Number two is outsources recruitment by hiring a search firm. And option three is using a hybrid approach of in-house resources with some help from a search firm. So that one's interesting to me because, okay, possible hiring of a search firm. Again, I'm going to be damn near surprised if that doesn't end up being the thing, because it feels like boilerplate at this point. Just as a serious CYA action, we're going to make sure, and no, I'm not talking about the California Youth Authority. You got to make sure that you are doing this right in a way that can be said, well, it wasn't my fault that we hired the wrong dude. The firm screwed up. So it's both a liability thing. It's not exactly stated that way, but come on, let's be honest here. But then also the idea of there being someone that has something to do with local is important to me, I do have to say. It's also noted that current city employees and individuals who do not reside in El Paso are eligible to apply for the city manager position. So, there's some possibility. You can see the full presentation up there from the story from our news partners at KFOX 14 and CBS 4. It's about 18 pages, so not exactly light reading, but it does note about the history so far of the city manager position since 2004, and particularly some of the important first steps for recruiting and what the actual selection process will be. Also, there's the mention of a possible citizens committee. I do think that including that kind of a thing would be important. Definitely have to say that when people have input on this, I would have to say that making sure that, well, I think we'll go a long way to making sure, at least conceptually, that maybe there are, if not the same gripes, different gripes at the very least. I'm sure that there's going to be someone who is unhappy with the performance of the city manager or the continued existence therein, among other things, but transparency, input, involvement, particularly for an unelected position, but of this high profile, I would be very in favor of, among other things. And a lot of interesting input there. James Radcliffe, very cynically, I think, saying, I'm sure no one at the county or city looks at resumes and check if they are true. I think that's, well, maybe not the city, but I think that's at the very least what the search firm would be used for. And one of those, well, it wasn't our fault that the qualifications weren't checked, because, yeah, that comes up. Louis Panado with an interesting requirement: want the new city manager to not know what a tortilla is. Okay, so do you want them to never have even heard of Taco Bell? I don't think that person exists anymore, unless you're going to I don't know. You'd have to go probably halfway around the world, but yeah, nah. Anyway, let's go ahead and take that next break and go ahead and open up those phone lines as we usually do at this point during the show. A lot going on today, a lot we're talking about, and of course, we want to hear from you. So if you want to get on the line, that number, of course, to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound is slow from Trans Mountain to the 54 Patriot, 8-minute delays. A disabled SUV is blocking the right shoulder on North Desert Boulevard at Mesa Street. Downtown, a stalled vehicle I-10 westbound after Cotton Street, blocking the right shoulder. And slow traffic on Montana Avenue eastbound Yarborough out to Desert Meadows is a 5-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
The Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg is pursuing a political witch hunt against Donald Trump. Former acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker joins me on the Truth with Lisa Booth. And listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday, but you can listen throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Paid for by government.com.
The 1878 to 1921 Morgan silver dollar, a true American classic and one of the most iconic silver dollar coins in history. It's been 100 years since the last Morgan silver dollar coin was struck for circulation. And now, for a limited time only, full pound bags of original U.S. government struck Morgan dollars are being released to the public. That's right. You can own a full pound of 1878 to 1921 classic American Morgan silver dollar coins, all in very good collector condition with fully visible dates and mint marks, guaranteed. Call 1-800-969-0686 now to secure collector-grade U.S. Morgan silver dollars by the pound, struck during the Wild West and the Gilded Age. Plus, receive a bonus American Collector's Pack valued at over $25, free with every order. Call 1-800-969-0686 now to secure your full pound bag of Morgan silver dollar coins before they are gone. 1-800-969-0686. That's 1-800-969-0686.
On the podcast Inner Cosmos with David Eagleman, the Stanford neuroscientist explores how brain science intersects with our lives, passions, and behaviors. This deep dive into the unexpected facets of our brain science will help you see the world differently.
I'm going to explore the relationship between our brains and our experiences by tackling unusual questions.
Listen to Inner Cosmos with David Eagleman on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
When your ride fires on all cylinders, so do you. That's why Napa is on a mission to keep you in motion. With nearly 6,000 Napa Auto Parts stores and over 17,000 Napa Auto Care centers, the Napa Network has everything you need to get up and go.
So, I'm a dog, and I just got adopted by this new human guy, and I'm starting to wonder how he got along without me. I mean, okay, something as simple as walking around the block. He's got this leash thing, and he puts me on one end and him on the other, and I'm just taking him around. I think he's afraid of getting lost. Without that leash and me guiding him along, I don't think he'd find his way back home. But it's kind of cute.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the program, particularly at this point during the show. Do have that phone line open if, okay, it's full up at the moment, but you get the idea. Can call in once you get the opportunity, so keep that phone number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Also, be sure to support some of our sponsors. Talk El Paso brought to you in part by Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Find them online at Sunland Park, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram.net. Just do your favor, search the Sunland Park Chrysler, and you'll probably find it more easily that way. But again, Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. So one other note I want to make here, we've got a lot of conversations going on about what will happen with the new city manager. A part of that presentation, besides in-house applicants, there actually is a note about an application review process, giving a couple different options of each city council member a fixed period of time to review all resumes, or asking a committee of city council to assume responsibility for the application review process, or using an outside third party such as a retired and respected city manager, university professor with city management experience, etc., to help screen resumes and narrow them down as far as basic criteria. So, or let the city's HR director perform initial screening. So, hey, got to imagine there's going to be someone that is doing some kind of review process, because otherwise, heck, I'll do it for, $200,000. Absolutely. Just do not check my resume at all. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines, squeezing what we can before we hit that top of the hour right now. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
Wow, holy cow. Yesterday, during the conversation, I mentioned the Proposition K. And
sure.
I told you, or I mentioned to you, I said I didn't know anything about it. So I looked it up. I read it, the whole long form, by the way.
Okay.
Okay, it was an easy read, maybe about 6-7 pages, versus the short form. And for all of you out there that don't know, the Proposition K encompasses about 3 primary gizmos, right? Is the climate change thing, the water thing,
sure,
and the municipalization of the El Paso Electric. Now, a couple of points here. They're all valid, except the way they put it together. And I'll get that, and hopefully I got enough time to be able to get this all out.
Okay.
But the thing about it is, one of the biggest things is the El Paso Electric municipalization aspect of it. Now, what you guys in El Paso are voting May 6th, El Paso Electric provides services to us here in New Mexico, at least 4 or 5 different counties. Now, where is our representation of that? That's question number one. Are we going to get the vote on that stuff?
Okay.
Well, especially for the municipalization aspect of it. Now, number 2 is, what in the world are they doing, mushing this whole thing? That there's a 3-pronged proposition. Each one of those should stand separately. And one of them is going to be a drag on the rest of them. I honestly believe, researching it, if you will, the municipalization of electric companies is workable. There's many cities in the United States that use that, and it works to their advantage. But to put that along with these other 2 that could be considered hot button issues aspect, it's kind of watering it down. Not to mention the general apathy, if you will, of the majority of people that are going to come out and vote. So there's a whole laundry list of all this other stuff. But where is or the rest of us folks down here in New Mexico, being able to go out there and chime in and say, okay, yeah, okay, no? That's my question.
That's a decent point here, particularly when it comes to, the municipalization of it. I could see that, and you're concerned about impact from that, though I would call that not the most immediate impact of it. Among the way that's put in the actual charter amendment, the long form, like you're mentioning, which is about 10 pages total, but 5-6 pages of actual actionable things. But that would be a long-term goal. That certainly would not happen overnight. Heck, even the studies from the budget that have been put forth before City Council now have put that process of just analyzing what it would take would be a 2-part process that could take 5, 6, maybe 7 years in total and cost about $12 million just on the study aspect of it. So, I get your concern, but I wouldn't call that the most immediate part of it. The most immediate part, if this were to be passed, I would have to say, would be the water resources, particularly about the supplying of water resources outside of city limits. And that, there are different, municipalities and different water controls out there spread across all of the counties and such here. That one probably has less of a widespread impact when it comes to, say, El Paso Electric, but particularly for immediate parts like near state lines and those kind of things, I'd have to say that might be more immediate because, at the very least, it's immediate language within the item itself.
Well, no, I hear you on that, but I don't want to get wrapped up around the axle here. The idea, sure. I just don't understand this. Okay, you want to crash everything together, put 3, in my estimation, standalone points that people need to vote on. In my estimation, they are totally all standalone. And I just don't get why they mushed it all together in one proposition. It doesn't gel. I hear what you just said. But there's more involved in this. Yeah, it's a long-term process. I understand that. It's the wave of the future, Andrew, and everybody else out there. We're going in this direction. How are we going to go about it? And how many people are going to be as interested to vote on this and know the ins and outs of it? Oh, yeah, it's on the website. You said 10 pages. I thought it was 6 or 7. But all the information is there. People need to can I make a suggestion, please?
Sure.
You need to hammer this thing because this is serious. This is long-term serious stuff. The
Absolutely.
People in El Paso, hopefully somewhere along they add us here in New Mexico. But the point is, this needs to be hammered so people are totally, absolutely, 100% clear on what they are voting for. Forget the apathy. Get everybody out there and get them smart on this stuff. Bring in people on your guests on programs and so forth and so on. This is crazy. 3 things on a proposition? Come on, what is this?
It's a whole charter amendment, would add an entire section to the El Paso charter, so it's not simple, but I am positive we'll keep talking about this. We got some guests in the work, those already on the schedule, coming up to talk further about this from all perspectives on this, so make no mistake, we're going to keep talking about this, absolutely.
Well, ding dong it, that's great, because this is stuff I love. This is local. This impacts me here in Mesilla, and it should impact everybody else out there in the whole Southwest Florida region, El Paso, and everybody else. Yeah, please do that. Get on this thing and stay on it so everybody is super smart. Whatever direction they want to go, at least they made the right decision on it. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Want people to be informed, absolutely. So, we got to take that break right now. So, thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Okay, you take care.
All right. And with that, we got to take that break. So, we'll be coming back talking more about this and all the other things affecting us here in the borderland y'all want to bring up. So, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690. That number, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back in a minute.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound is slow from Trans Mountain to the 54 Patriot, 8-minute delays. A disabled SUV is blocking the right shoulder on North Desert Boulevard at Mesa Street. Downtown, a stalled vehicle, I-10 westbound after Cotton Street, blocking the right shoulder. And slow traffic on Montana Avenue eastbound Yarborough out to Desert Meadows is a 5-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com. News on the hour and the half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Nashville police may soon release what they believe was the motive in the deadly shooting at the private Christian school. Lisa Taylor reports.
Police say the shooter, a transgender Nashville woman, was shot and killed by police inside the school after killing 3 kids and 3 adults Monday. She previously attended the school, and the Nashville police chief said there may have been some resentment for having to go to that school.
The Uvalde Foundation for Kids is honoring the police officers who stopped the Nashville school shooter. The founder of the organization praised the officers for doing what they failed to do in Uvalde, referring to the elementary school shooting last year in which police hesitated to act for over an hour. Dominion Voting Systems wants to put Fox News hosts and executives on the witness stand in its $1.6 billion defamation case. That includes President Jay Wallace and on-air hosts Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, and Laura Ingraham, among others. The company is suing Fox over claims it made that it rigged the 2020 presidential election. Wall Street is closing lower as bond yields rise. The 2-year Treasury note rose back above 4%, pressuring tech names and other stocks. Financial shares lost ground as regulators told the Senate Banking Committee they favor new rules for big banks. President Biden is kicking off a 3-week Investing in America tour in North Carolina.
We're making chips that go into electric vehicles, powered by batteries and critical minerals that you're making here in North Carolina.
While speaking from a semiconductor manufacturer in Durham, the president laid out how legislation he championed is boosting American manufacturing. The FBI is offering a $10,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan's ex-chief of staff. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The U.S. and Mexico are considering an agreement to crack down on the flow of fentanyl. It comes at a time when experts in Texas say that drug trafficking is peaking.
The Mexican cartels have weaponized drugs with the intent to harm Texas residents and destabilize our communities.
David Grantham is with the Tarrant County Sheriff's Office. He says fentanyl-related deaths are skyrocketing. The proposed binational deal includes Mexican authorities cracking down on drug labs, while the U.S. does more to stop the flow of firearms south of the border. Consumer confidence is up slightly this month. The Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index gained nearly a point in March to just over 104. The survey noted an improved outlook for consumers under 55 years of age and for households earning $50,000 or more. A bipartisan group of Ohio lawmakers have a new bill to end the death penalty.
Democrats from Lakewood and Columbus, alongside Republicans from Canal Winchester and the state Senate President Steve Huffman of Tip City, all backing legislation that would replace capital punishment in Ohio with a sentence of life in prison without parole. They call it a pragmatic, economically prudent step. In response, Ohio's Attorney General said that he supports the death penalty, but says this bill's introduction opens the door for long overdue debate. He calls the capital punishment system broken. I'm Jack Crumley.
Former President Trump says he feels like Elvis after a song he released in collaboration with prisoners convicted in the Capitol insurrection topped music charts. In an interview with Sean Hannity on Fox News, Trump took a victory lap for the commercially successful song, the proceeds of which benefit those incarcerated in connection with the January 6th riot. The single, Justice for All, is a rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner sung by prisoners as Trump recites the Pledge of Allegiance. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Shopping for new blinds? At Blindster, we offer over 50 different blinds, shades, and shutters at low prices, custom made for your windows, and shipping is free. Shop at home and order 10 free samples of any product before you buy. Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Josh, quote, "After walking around my whole life being a mouth breather, I was excited to try Navage. I read the directions carefully, pressed the button, and oh my gosh, what a sensation. So much mucus, so much crud, but oh sweet, merciful air, I can finally breathe you through my nose. Never have I ever taken such an amazing breath in my life. This is a life changer," unquote. He's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all of your favorite radio stations.
It's Elliot in the morning.
Rover's Morning Glory.
Booker and Stryker.
All of the once-in-a-lifetime events.
Alter Ego, are you ready?
All of the best free curated playlists.
Nobody does it better.
All of the great podcasts for every interest.
Hey guys, this is Freddie Prinze Jr. from the Wrestling with Freddie podcast.
All of the mind-blowing contests.
$20,000.
Awesome. All of your favorite superstars.
We're the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
And best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of different comments coming in, particularly from the last caller or response to then anyway. But if you want to add your own 2 cents, comments coming online, those dropping those likes and reactions we appreciate, including James Holmes, James Radcliffe, Monica Cervantes, Ida Beza Gardner, and Flaco Jimenez. Also with all of those algorithmic things that hopefully make it so that we can continue to have live local talk radio here in the borderland. Rondo Rivera, I'm going to call this maybe the best encapsulation, saying Frankie has learned, do not personalize politics, and he will present clear points, because the whole, it's all one way or the other often doesn't actually fit. I mean, it's a persuasive narrative for a lot of people, but the realities of a situation and trying to understand it often a hell of a lot more nuance. And anyone rejecting nuance out of hand, saying, it's all one way or the other, either with us or against us, is often just trying to sell you something, or just to troll, among other things. Mondo Monconda over on the, not saying you're doing that, but Mondo Monconda chiming in over on the social media, yo to you as well. So appreciate you demonstrating that, being on the Twitch stream and all the ways you can be up with us and hear and participate in what we got going on for you. Phone lines, of course, open as well. 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Just had a line drop off, so want to get on, now would be your chance. Let's go ahead and get back to the phone lines. In the meantime, we do have Andrew on the west side with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. Reference this tragic fire that occurred yesterday at the Migrant Center in Juarez.
Yes, I mean, it's a big deal. That's why we've talked about it for quite a lot on the first hour of this program here, and probably will be more coming out of this. At the very least, this situation on its own probably driving a lot more. It's being noted as one of the worst incidents at an immigration center within Mexico in history, among other things. And there's definitely we've already had response from around the region, and I'm sure there'll be more coming from across the country, if not around the world, as it puts a focus on what we are experiencing here in this region.
Well, yes, and to point out, the United States ambassador to Mexico, a guy by the name of Ken Salazar, yesterday, or rather, he said on Twitter, I believe it was today, that, and I'll quote, "The fire was a reminder to the governments of the region the importance of fixing a broken immigration system." No, I could not disagree more. This was an act, it was a criminal act. 40 people died, and dozens of others are seriously injured.
I mean, yeah, there are dozens involved on either side of this. And I mean, again, some of the details I think you're referring to there about that the fire was set from inside the facility by those that were detained there, reportedly initially as a protest into what was being proposed when it comes to the deportations now being done by the government of Mexico or being moved forward with by those that were, say, in that specific detention facility. So I think that's what you're referring to there. Yes?
Well, kind of. Well, what I'm saying is this was a criminal act by those individuals who started the fire. These protesters in there.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, criminal act. Now, arson in Mexico, incendio provocado, carries a maximum of 20 years. If there's a death involved, in this case, it's a homicide, and you're talking up to 60 years. In the United States, that could get you the death penalty. Rather, in Texas, that could get you the death penalty. But what I'm trying to say is these individuals who try to defray or sideline what's actually happening, this is not a result of a broken immigration system. These are people that did not get their way. They're facing deportation. They cannot follow the rules. As it is, they're breaking the law by entering Mexico's borders. And also, the president of Mexico should have done more than just allowing these people to come in through the southern border. And hey, like you said before, yeah, you could come on in as long as you don't set up, home and just go to the U.S. border.
Right. Yeah. And so, I mean, that's why, in answer to that, again, pretty decent question from Willie earlier about essentially where does blame lie here. It's way more complicated than, one dude's that, I mean, it'd be very tempting to say, well, this is AMLO's fault and move on from it. I mean, part of his policies have certainly contributed to it, and the kind of yo-yoing might be the better way to put it here about, okay, are they allowed in? Are they not? Are we going to let them go all the way? Are we going to bust them to that, as we saw kind of in November last year? Or now are we going to crack down on it? So, I mean, that's just in the span of 6 months. In just our region as well, we have seen quite the vacillation of what is being enforced or what is happening. And I gotta say that part of it is not really conducive to smoothness or well functioning of any of these systems. So I'm not gonna say that this is actually that they're handling it greatly. I mean, if they want to do one thing, like, okay, do it and go about it. But consistency is kind of key whenever you start talking about government policies, because you start, again, yo-yoing back and forth. That's when incidents like this can be more primed to happen, even if there is, not saying this is justified by any means on its own.
Well, correct. Well, like I've said before, these immigrants that are seeking asylum, that are seeking entry into the United States, they have to follow rules and regulations. This ain't Burger King. You can't have it your way. And they may not like the facilities that they were in, these migrant facilities. Well, I can tell you, they're going to like it a hell of a lot less being in the Cerezo or in the Reclusorio Estatal in Chihuahua.
Yeah, and so this was a specific detention facility, a building, if you will. There are still a lot of other camps, refugee centers, etc., things like that are over there in Mexico. So, and specifically in Ciudad Juarez. So that's why I kind of have a hope that this won't be, but a sneaking suspicion that this will probably get worse if this course is continued on, particularly by Mexican officials, before it gets better, as this could be seen by a lot. Someone else commented, I forget who said it earlier, about what would you do in this situation if you had certain expectations coming here, certain ways and policies had been working that are suddenly being changed. How would you react to this? And yeah, that's why I have, again, a sneaking suspicion that this, maybe not this type of incident, this type of severity of incident with serious loss of life, but that these types of things of upheaval with, as the response of the system continues on, may not be done by any means, at least in the short term.
True. Now, is this an indicator? One could also ask, is this an indicator of the conduct we're going to see of these individuals if they don't get what they want over here in the United States? Let's say they are their petition for asylum is granted and they're allowed to come in, and let's say later on their asylum claim is denied by a judge. Is this going to be an indication of what's going to happen?
So I'm going to attempt to say I understand what you're getting at there. My assumption is going to be no at this point, because effectively that's already been the situation between those that are actually making it to immigration court, among other things. Not to say that the Mexican side of things is the only way that there has been this back and forth on policies. U.S. side has absolutely been a thing, but at the very least within the El Paso sector, for those quote-unquote immigration judges, because they're not really judicial judges. We call them judges. It's a different process. The same rules don't apply, et cetera, et cetera. In just our region, the denials of asylum proceedings have been above 90%. So the vast majority of people trying to and applying in this sector have been getting told no. So again, big back end of that. And I don't have as clear, concrete data on that point of it, but essentially they are before the judge, they are in their proceedings. And I think if it is then denied, they are then immediately processed for removal. So it might be partially the fact that they're going through the system, partially about the idea that there is actually a, kind of an immediate response that is done there. This was a holding way and let's just say a lot of time to think about it, so to speak. So I don't know if there's just essentially processes different, but I'm not saying that it's not impossible, but at least on a huge scale, my inclination is to say no.
Yes, correct. Well, like I said, these people need to realize, these people in Mexico, Mexico is their host country. They must abide by the laws of that country. And once again, this ain't Burger King. You cannot have it your way. Obey the law. Anyway, Andrew, I turn the mic back over to you. Have a good evening.
No, sure thing. You too as well. Thanks for the point in the call.
Roger that.
And I will say that, Mexico has never been exactly noted for its generous immigration policies. Haven't done an exact recent analysis, but from previous years, they're fairly draconian on what it takes to become a citizen. Even just to own land within Mexico it's like night and day from the policies from the U.S. to Mexico. So if the Mexican immigration system is coming to bear on those that are seeking to move through Mexico, again, not trying to put all the blame on Mexico on this, because there's a lot of sources of contributions to the situation to go around. But there are, let's just say, draconian is a pretty simple way to put it, I gotta say. Let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Again, coming out of this break, we'll talk more about these related and other things going on in our region. So if you want to get on that phone line, remember that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this breaks with more Talk El Paso on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Slow traffic eastbound on the I-10 continues from Trans Mountain to the 54 Patriot, 10-minute delays. Eastbound on Liberty Expressway, it's extra slow today on the spur. Eastbound from the Gateway over to the Loop, a 15-minute delay. The left interchange ramp is blocked on I-10 westbound at the 54 Patriot in the Spaghetti Bowl. Heavy traffic there, and a stalled vehicle on the off-ramp on Border Highway eastbound at Fonseca. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Shopping for new blinds? At Blindster, we offer over 50 different blinds, shades, and shutters at low prices, custom made for your windows, and shipping is free. Shop at home and order 10 free samples of any product before you buy. Blindster.com.
Hi, guys. It's Mark. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now available and it isn't a pill? Today, Tuesday, we're running a one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Northbrook Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. It's backed by 60 clinical studies, including from Cambridge. If you're ready to regain that spark in the bedroom, today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. You'll also get a gift that can produce rapid and powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that one, guys. Trust me. And today only, we're offering 5 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is an unprecedented offer worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify totally free. Call 915-529-9000. That's 915-529-9000. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your life back. Call Northbrook Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today. 915-529-9000.
Breaking news.
Tax refund shock is everywhere, but what is it?
My tax refund shrank.
Mine too. The culprit? Pandemic-related stimulus payments and tax credits expiring. In this reporter's opinion, you need a tax expert.
Hey guys, Jackson Hewitt guarantees your biggest refund.
And tax prep is 50% off? Going there now.
50% off is a limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
Dazzling decal on Daisy's Donuts window. Bold banner at Barry's Barbershop. Prominent poster at Penny's on Park Place.
This is your sign. Well, signs. To try Staples and see the difference. Get $15 off signs, banners, and posters when you spend $75 or more.
From Staples, and I couldn't miss it.
Ends 4/15. Visit staplesconnect.com/printbig for details.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. And yes, YouTube is back on, so we're on some of the back-end things to ensure will be that way. But in the meantime, a lot of stuff we're talking about here today, locally, regionally, and affecting us from all of those regions. And part of it, Willie Jenkins mentioning on immigration policy, particularly in Mexico, I do believe voter ID, land, financial independence, not a ward of the state, and a whole lot more required of it. Again, it's not easy. Had some like friends or family that were trying to like buy, maybe get dual citizenship, and it's not simple. Nick von Holstein Rathlow with another comment saying, why does El Paso need to hire a firm to find a police chief? Again, this is not the official reason, so I'm not quoting anyone here on this, but I gotta say there's quite a lot of CYA, because if something goes wrong, the dude doesn't work out, or whoever ends up getting appointed to it, you're gonna say, well, the firm didn't do well. So I guess maybe there's could be set an added incentive for the firm to do like a good job, find someone well-suited, qualified, etc. And yeah, because otherwise they're going to be the scapegoat. And again, none of these are official reasons, but let's just say, given the fact that it seems like boilerplate for major positions these days to go through that, non-elected positions, let's put it that way, because of course, most people, anyone who really wants to, it's not that hard to register to run for most positions in El Paso, which is why we sometimes get these crowded elections. Like, what is it? One of the city council positions has like 7 or 8 people. Sorry, not city council, school board positions. Those ever so slightly, not at all anyone mad at those lately type positions. Like 7 or 8 people on one of the ballots in our region. So yeah, not a search firm involved there. I'll just say a thing. And James Radcliffe saying, so who suffers? The taxpayer. Let's just say if city council, for particularly the city manager position, I know you're talking about the chief of police, but also if just for the city manager, if there's not a whole lot of consideration that goes into and a hell of a lot of justification on, frankly, I'm going to be surprised if anything above like $200,000 for a starting salary doesn't have just like stacks of documents, and even then probably won't be sufficient for a lot of people. There's going to be someone that has their knickers in a twit over it. And RJ saying that good background checks, his bookie, frequent massage parlor. I mean, yeah, that I would like to have that be at least glanced at or looked into, among other things. And Marky Mandingo, I think at least partially tongue-in-cheek, saying makes him feel special. Why not promote a sergeant? I mean, we do have one of the deputy chiefs now as the interim acting chief. And James Radcliffe making a decent point, like all jobs, there should be a probationary period. But again, once you start getting into a serious, high-profile one like that, a lot of eyes on it. It's not your hiring the new busboy kind of thing. So, I don't know. But also Eric von Holstein Rathlow saying that makes sense. Nobody wants to be responsible for anything, so they lower the standards. We get the soft tyranny of low standards and expectations. I don't know if they're going to necessarily lower the standards, but let's just say if something goes wrong, buck passing is kind of built into it, at least in my expectation. No idea who's possibly going to be up for it. I hope that there are local staff that are considered for it as well, and not just someone parachuting in from elsewhere around the country. But TBD. Another thing, one of the many, many things we'll keep our eye on. Anyway, let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, the number to call if you want to get on the line at your 2 cents is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Raul on the Northeastern line with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hey, Andrew. I'll tell you what affected El Paso. An assault weapon, an AK-47, wielded by an incited xenophobic racist who drove 600 miles from Dallas to kill 23 people in El Paso. Incited by a xenophobic racist rhetoric of the President of the United States. And now he's predicting death and destruction when he's arrested. Words from powerful people with lots of followers can influence people to do good or bad things. Now, today, President Joe Biden renewed his call on Congress to pass an assault weapons ban after 6 people, including 3 kids, were killed at that school shooting in Nashville yesterday. Now, I back President Biden's call to ban assault weapons. The number of mass shootings in the United States so far, 57 people have died in 38 mass shootings in the U.S. so far just this month, with another 133 people injured. 130 shootings have taken place in 2023. That means that there have been more mass shootings than there are days in the year. And firearms now are the number 1 cause of death for children in the United States. But they don't rank no higher than 5th in 11 other large and wealthy countries. Guns, including accidental deaths, suicides, and homicides, killed 4,357 children in the United States in 2020. And we know that an assault weapons ban reduces mass killings. Now, during the 1994-2004 ban, in the years assault weapons went into effect, the number of deaths from mass shootings fell. And the increase in the annual number of incidents slowed down also. And the data shows that almost immediate and steep rise in mass shootings in the years after the assault weapons ban expired in 2004. So there's a story. Why? And nothing's going to happen because the Republicans are in charge of Congress right now.
I mean, sure, and statements that have also, when prodded about that, the president has said that they are actually, he doesn't expect it to go through at this point in time. Statements along the lines of this can be heard on the top of the hour news breaks about, okay, what do you actually expect to happen? He doesn't expect it to move through, but he wants those not moving forward with it on the record, etc. Yeah, that is pretty well baked into the whole conversation. I do not expect that it would actually move forward given the makeup and given the positions already in Congress so much now. So it's a rhetoric point at this moment in time. Don't expect that there will be action, even with incidents that you're talking about there, even if there is. And don't think that I don't know what you're doing and don't exactly appreciate the trying to shoehorn in any talking point you want to with a vague allusion to what's going on in El Paso right now. But to just indulge the point for a minute here, when it comes to them, the purpose of it, the idea, what you're talking about with that 1994 assault weapons ban that then did expire, I don't remember the exact date, but in the 2000s, let's just say that in general. And when it comes to the aspect of it here, so the assault weapons ban 1994 very specifically had a grandfathered clause that essentially certain devices, magazines, those types of devices that met the description, which is a sticking point that others are asking about, but that's an economic point for a later time. The point was that those that already possessed them did not have them. So would you be in favor of 1994, of that style of it, as opposed to what you're calling for the banning of assault weapons, where it doesn't actually impact those that are, again, literally not doing anything?
Well, there's not much we can do about the people who already have the guns. But moving forward, what we should do is have a tax on everybody who buys ammo for guns to cover the cost of providing security in all the schools in America that are now vulnerable because of the fact that there's so many nuts with guns out there. You're not safe anywhere, anytime in America. Isn't that wonderful? What a wonderful country. 20 years ago, a man walked into a primary school in England and it killed 16 kids. And soon afterwards, the United Kingdom banned the ownership of all handguns, and there have been no school shootings in the United Kingdom since. Since 2009 in Canada, there were 2 mass shootings. In France, 2. None. 1 in Germany. 0 in Japan. 0 in Italy. 0 in the United Kingdom. Total of 5 in 2009. The United States, 288.
So, okay, get your point about the different industrialized nations comparison that you're going on about there. But again, the fact that you keep coming back to these gun nuts out there, it doesn't sound like you actually really want to go about this in a way that is focused on the crime or the aspects of it. It sounds more like, again, you want to punish those that you disagree with politically for, say, their ownership or maintenance of guns, when by your own analysis, as you mentioned, again, 1994, rates went down by your own admission. Those people still had theirs and, again, still weren't doing anything. So, again, why the continued focus on gun nuts, things like that? Because if there has been a common thread that can be seen in what has happened in this country, it often ends up being those that, well, they have to do it in a not sane, conscious, like, say, full of them. Again, it's the people who have a ton of them that I'm the least worried about. So when it comes to that, just why that continued focus?
Again, there are gun nuts. Are you denying that there are gun nuts? And these nuts get their hands on guns, and then they go kill a bunch of people. And you got a political party in the pockets of the NRA, of the arms industry, of the bullet manufacturers, and they haven't done anything except thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers don't save kids. We live in an America where, again, parents can't feel safe about their kids in school. How horrible is that? And it's on Republicans, on them, and the money that buys them. That's the problem in America. The best politicians, plutocrats can buy, in this case, the armed plutocrats.
I mean, okay, I think I get what you're saying, though. It seemed to be arguing and doing different names for gun nuts here, because, again, you seem to keep focusing on those that already have them and have had them and did, particularly during, like, the 1994 assault weapons ban. Again, there was still possession and people owned them, among other things. But you're saying that those that are going out and getting their hands on them. So it doesn't sound like you're actually that focused on those that already have them as opposed to those that are getting them. Accessibility essentially being the major point here. And let's just say that's not the way it's being discussed, at the very least nationally, some of the parts of it there. But I mean, a lot of other conversation going on the line that we'll probably delve into here in just a minute. But let me just say, again, the idea of trying to slap around, penalize those that have literally committed no crime and have done nothing about it. I mean, among other things, yeah, murder is illegal, but we still expect there to be some kind of response and just can't just declare it to be illegal. We expect enforcement to come along with that. So I don't think we're coming to a consensus on it on this day here, among other things. But if you're actually wanting to see, again, like viable, purposeful, useful solutions as opposed to just like punitive ones, and again, those that were literally not involved, but they're adjacent and / you don't like them politically, that would be absolutely something I'd be willing to consider, among other things. So appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth, but let's go ahead and take that break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls, more comments, more everything on the line. Think they're still working, even if just note if you're calling in and you want to get on the line, you might be on hold for a minute, so just stay in the line if we're not having any other of those outside issues, which just terminally tick me off. But in any case, that phone number, just keep it handy, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. At least 40 people were killed, dozens others injured after a fire broke out at a migrant detention center in Juarez. The fire started last night at the National Institute of Migration, which is right next to the Santa Fe Bridge. According to Mexican officials, migrants from Venezuela started the fire after learning they would be deported. Migrants on the streets of Juarez today are calling for accountability and say the government is to blame for the tragedy. The city of El Paso has approved major pay raises for police officers. City Council voted unanimously today to approve the pay hikes as part of a 4-year collective bargaining agreement with the police union. Entry-level police officers will see a 13% increase in salary, senior-level police officers a 15% increase, and sergeants will get a 17% increase. The city will now need to budget for the pay raises, which will add millions of dollars to the overall budget in the next several years. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Traffic's moving slow on the spur eastbound on Liberty Expressway, gateway to the Loop. It's a 15-minute delay. I-10 eastbound Trans Mountain to the 54 Patriot. That'll slow you down. 7-minute delays there. Southbound on 54 Patriot from Trans Mountain to the I-10, 5-minute delays. And a crash with injuries. Lee Trevino Drive, southbound south of Montwood at Ben Crenshaw. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. The breezy to windy conditions will die down as we go through the overnight tonight. Cold one for tomorrow morning. We'll see lows in the 30s and 40s, so grab a coat or jacket if you're heading out early. Very nice weather for your Wednesday afternoon, high around 77, but enjoy the weather on Wednesday. We're going to see partly cloudy and windy conditions return for your Thursday and Friday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Our American Stories.
She came to New York City dead, but left more alive than ever. We'll have Sarah Gonzalez's personal testimony. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Tara, quote, "My doctor wanted me to do saline rinses for my allergies, but I've never been able to successfully use a neti pot. Navage uses suction power, so it's foolproof. There are nights when I'll have particularly bothersome allergies. I'll bust it out, and the results are immediate. It's such a relief. It's become a lifesaver," unquote. She's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Since 2010, Blindster has sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters to satisfied customers across the country with 20,000 five-star reviews and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Custom blinds at low prices and free shipping. Blindster.com.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
Weather and traffic info. You need it? We have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of commentary and comments coming in there. Those dropping those likes and reacts that we always appreciate. Louis Pinato, Bernadette Bandicol, Amber Banda, James Holmes, James Ratcliffe, Monica Cervantes, Ida Beza Gardner, and Flaco Jimenez helps with all those algorithmic things as we continue wanting to talk about the things that go on here in the borderland, as well as the major issues going on there. And I will indulge a point when it is made, even if it's from someone that I don't necessarily agree with, among other things. Where do we got here? Eric McNabb saying conservatives blindly reject all common sense solutions. Polk, you know this. They think the slippery slope fallacy is not a fallacy, and any common sense gun control laws that save lives will lead to all guns being taken away. Again, there's some base level suppositions I disagree with you here, but let me just say that when it comes to the flip side of this debate, the idea of I know all the people who say shall not be infringed means that there's no law that is even possible on this. And yes, I've talked with people who hold that position both in and out of elected office, and I find that unreasonable in equal measure, to be honest with you, because the idea of nope, nothing can be done, or this, frankly, what I think of as head in the sand kind of mentality of just ignore it and it'll go away and we can just go about the way things always were, is just not reasonable. So either be a part of the conversation and talk about what is important, what are the things going on, and like just be involved, or expect things to happen whether things change politically as they are often want to do, or be essentially left behind, among other things. But and James Radcliffe asking for our show, but nothing but fallacies. Oh, I've often thought about setting up like just a flame war channel that'll be online where we drop the words that I can't say online. So maybe that'll be the one. We'll just have the fallacy edition anyway. But there is a debate. There is a conversation to be had when it comes to these issues, because again, the fact that this does happen should not be okay with anyone. Anyone just saying, well, it doesn't affect me, let's just go back with it. But no, that just doesn't fly with me, I gotta say, personally. So a lot of other commentary going on there, including Rick Reyes saying about double tax for beer for all drunk drivers. Again, the idea, and often comparisons between firearms vehicles and regulations in between often comes up. Only to say the real kind of core issue that comes for me is holding those that have done nothing wrong accountable and responsible and culpable, really, through actions, taxes, etc. For those that have done bad just does not make sense, and doesn't technically end up being an ex post facto law, and yet ends up being way too close to it in spirit for me. Anyway, a lot of more comments coming in. Let's get to at least another call here. And I did want to say one that got me laughing over the break. RJ saying, Dr. Ben Joseph, rest in peace, hated the phone system 10 years ago. Boss's pinch pennies this long. Has Guinness been notified? We've had some changes in the phone systems even more lately than that. I think now we're technically voice over IP VoIP. So there have been changes, but I wonder if we're more susceptible to some of the weather conditions these days, it feels like. So, but appreciate the historical perspective on it there. That's not one thing we often find, that part of it. But let's go ahead and take another call. We do have Marcia on the west side with us right now. Marcia, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. This business of the mass shootings, it's devastating. It's horrible. It's horrendous.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
But for somebody to jump on the stand and immediately want to blame the gun, I think is really too quick. We have multitudes of gun laws. What are they?
Mm-hmm.
Pick them apart. Were they even enforced, and why aren't they working? Before you jump and add another gun law. Certainly can't tax the citizens that are a concealed carry and responsible gun owners. You can't make them at fault, and it isn't the gun's fault. It is, we had, I think it's about 15 years ago, we defunded mental health. That is the problem. You go back to the problem, and that problem is the person. God bless them, have got a mental issue, concern, or problem that has been overlooked. And the onset of COVID has made even the most sane people a little less sane. And their problems become momentum, and they don't have a place to turn and get help from, except they turn to a gun. And that's horrible and horrific. Do not get me wrong. But we can't, by next weekend, have a solution. Nor, the other issue I have with putting another bill through is if you only talked about guns in that bill, that would be one thing. But that's an opportunity for everybody to put their pork barrel on top of it. So I think they have to, number one, go take a look at what are the gun laws and why have they failed. You have to, number two, look at mental health issues. And I guess that's all I've got to say. But it's not an easy fix. It's horrible. It's horrible, absolutely horrible.
I mean, yeah, as with most of the issues we end up talking about, they are not simple solutions or short-term ones here, as much as, knee-jerk is often desirable, and it sells well. It plays well in sound bites, saying, oh, we just need to do this and it'll fix everything. But reality is often not that responsive to our rhetoric, unfortunately.
Right. You just can't do it by next week. You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. All through these last mass shootings, I've been listening and trying to figure out what could. It's not the gun; it's the person holding the gun.
I mean, yeah,
they have the gun, and we have to fix that problem. It's a combined problem. But we have to fix mental health as well.
All right. Well,
that's all.
Definitely appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. I will say that, the multifaceted nature of this and the need to focus on kind of all aspects of it with most of the issues we end up talking about. Yeah, it's significant. And I mean, yeah, there are a lot of gun laws on the book and the enforcement that happens with them because, again, you can declare anything outlawed, illegal, not able to be done, but if you're not actually enforcing it, going through the systems to make sure it can happen. I know there's a hell of a lot of conversation going on around red flag laws and the potential there. I expect that might also come out of this. I've seen more minor mentions of that. I mean, with the national focus that has been happening on this, that's been one of the primary aspects, the gun itself, but that's been kind of floating under the surface, I got to say, in the conversations I've been seeing and I've been aware of, to which I still also have issues. But let me just say, the focus on what to do about this, beyond anything knee-jerk about, just get rid of all of it. And as much as there are those out there saying no one's actually calling for that, again, just go to Twitter and search up the hashtag It's the Guns. Just anyone who is curious about that, just go ahead and do that, particularly in the recent days, and you will find quite a lot of conversation going along that route. And to my look at it, doesn't seem like that's all bot or troll accounts on that point. A lot of sincere intonations about the idea. So don't come at me with this nonsense of no one's calling for getting rid of everything, because it's absolutely a thing that is being discussed. And as much as the whole slippery slope idea may be a logical fallacy, there are also those who have put forth the idea already of, okay, once we get rid of this, here's the next step of what we'll get rid of next. And the whole talking points that are in place for that, sniper rifles, is waiting in the wings as an item to be put forth about the idea of, high-powered calibers meant to take out people. Well, you can never even see them, or see similar points that have been used when it comes to suppressors, aka silencers, probably better known as in the general populace. So there's a lot of rhetoric already out there and existing, and not just waiting or speculated on being used. It's already being talked about, among other things. But again, the idea of impacting and particularly putting penalties on those who have nothing involved with it, with the concept of we have to do anything to deal with this, if we're not actually means testing, if we're not actually putting forth what will the solutions, what the impacts will it actually have, as opposed to will we just need to do anything, that is not reasonable, nor will it be necessarily that effective. Yeah, Willie Jenkins, Hegelism theory, among other things. I mean, deontology and teontology. Do the ends justify the means? And therefore, are any means justifiable in order to reach that end? Is also a long argued point. Been arguing that since my speech and debate days back in high school. And oftentimes, if you don't have, frankly, somewhere a mix of both, of like, yes, we have an end goal that we want to achieve, but say steamrolling everyone in order to get to it is also largely not acceptable, nor right, or should be frankly considered within this country, within the framework that we have of this country, because we do offer broad personal freedoms, but also responsibility that comes along with it. So that is so much to say that none of this is good. None of the situations, the instances, what happened in Nashville, as much as this is absolutely Friday territory, but I get that it's a passionate topic for a lot of people, is not, it's not acceptable. It should not be allowed to continue happening in this country. But if saying that, well, we just need to do anything to make sure it stops, without actually looking at, okay, what would be effective? What was the situation, and what would actually be something that would be functional towards it? Yeah, that's just much of a, well, there are things I don't like that are happening, I'm going to use this as an excuse for it, which is another type of logical fallacy. Anyway, we got a couple of the calls on the line here. Again, just a note, if you're calling in the middle of a segment and we haven't a chance to get you from your name, you might get popped up live, so just be used to that. Hasn't come up as much recently, but hey, situation as it is, / whatever games we're playing with our phone system today. So squeeze in another call or two before we hit the top of the hour. Right now, you're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hey, Jerry, West Side.
Hey there.
Thank you, Andrew, for taking my call.
Yeah, sure thing, Jerry. What's on your mind?
Well, first off, I want to offer my condolences to the individuals that died over in the Juarez prison, the retention center, I guess they call it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then those that also were affected, injured by it, I hope they have a quick recovery, even though I disagree with them coming up here to come across the border illegally.
Mm-hmm.
If they did it legally, I wouldn't have a problem, but illegally, I do have a problem.
Okay.
And so my condolences to them. Then also my condolences to the families over there in Tennessee.
Absolutely.
Because they don't deserve this, but those guns did not walk into that building on their own. There was 2 legs that carried them that was on a, from what I understand, was a female trans person.
There's
transvestite.
So there's some reporting coming out about that. I'm going to call it too early to make conclusions at this point in time, but personally.
Well, but that's what the reports are already being put out there. And the reports are out there that she had already had a plan to where she even drew up what type of uniform she was going to wear while doing this. So what kind of person draws up the uniform, selects the type of uniform and draws it up on a piece of paper to go out and kill children? Well, Raul's right. They're nuts. They're mentally insane, if that's what you want to call nuts. I think he tries to use the word nuts as we like our guns. That he refers to us as the people that enjoy shooting as gun nuts, and actually shooting is a sport. But anyway,
sure.
Those 2 guns or 3 guns did not walk into that room or that building by themselves. They did not grow legs and walk in there by themselves. They were carried in there by a mentally insane person. And one of the things, like I said, and I'll say it again, is mental condition of the populace in the United States is waning. It's going down. And it starts with our kids. When you start teaching kids they're nothing more than pond scum, which means that, pond scum is killed with bacteria. It is a bacteria, basically. And normally either killed or eaten, killed to get rid of, or eaten by the bugs and the fish. So you're teaching your kids that you're nothing more than that's going to be sacrificed through life when you teach them your pond scum, versus if you teach them that they are loved by God and they're a child of God and they're cared for by other people and other people love them for just being a human being. Maybe we can start right there. Stop teaching our kids CRT and stuff in the schools and this emotional stuff learning, emotional social learning, which is a variation of CRT. Stop teaching them that. Let's go back to teaching them that they're good people, that they live in a nation that cares for other people, that goes out and helps other people. We're the nation that gives other people the most money through charity. We're the nation that sends our tax dollars over to help people that get flooded out through tsunamis. We're the nation that gives people in Africa the answer to the AIDS virus. We're that nation. We're the nation that sends people over to Africa to drill water wells, and South America and Central America. That's what kind of people we are. We stand up for the little guy. We take them, and we take the ones in that even our enemies, we consider them our enemies. We take them in. How many refugees come over from Afghanistan and Kuwait and Iraq? How many refugees did we take in the last 10 years? A lot. Well, thank you, Andrew, for letting me spew my spew. The guns didn't cause this problem at that school. It was the mentally ill individual that was taught, probably since she was been a young grade schooler, that she is nothing more than pond scum. Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah,
have a good day.
Sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. I mean, mental health is an undeniable problem in this country. I don't agree with it entirely when it's brought up as a, well, let's just, whataboutism kind of way. I mean, it certainly is important, but again, comprehensive solutions, as fleeting and difficult to put them forth, honestly, is maybe not politically feasible at any recent point in time, but it's the only way I see our way through a whole variety of issues. Because if you're not focusing on any aspects of it here, it's like an amoeba. It's just going to squish out and then be an issue in a different area, as much as we were talking about pond scum, among other things. Point is that there are many facets to this here. Yeah, anyone willing to go into a school and target children, I'm going to call on the very base level as mentally very messed up. I don't think that there can or should be any debate on that point here, because there's no one being like, oh, well, you know what? I had a bad day. I'm going to go and end someone. That's not a stable person to begin with, much less with that kind of targeting. And there's a whole lot of other parts of that conversation also been brought up in the comments when it comes to the security. What is provided there? How do we consider these institutions and provide and protect them that are so critical and important to our future and to the people involved with them? This is not a simple conversation, nor one that'll end anytime soon. But I do think, as we always say, it's important to have the conversation, because there are a lot of different facets to it. So tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this, we'll tell you got coming up for you on the program, as we still got a lot in motion. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this quick break on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
54 Patriot southbound of the I-10. The right interchange ramp is blocked due to a crash there. On the 54 Patriot southbound of the I-10 interchange, the right interchange ramp is blocked by a crash. Gateway east at Hawkins, the stalled vehicle has been moved off to the left shoulder. Heavy traffic in there. 17-minute delays on the spur eastbound Liberty Expressway from the Gateway to the Loop. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. If you're like many people, you may think custom blinds is a job for expensive professionals. Well, at Blindster, if you have a tape measure and a screwdriver, you can install our custom blinds and save big. Plus, we guarantee they'll fit. Blindster.com.
If you have an IRA or 401k, please listen closely. My name is Jason Hansen. I'm a former CIA officer and New York Times bestselling author. Throughout my career, let's just say I've been in some hairy situations. And I believe right now the biggest threat facing Americans is they need to protect their wealth, which is exactly what I'm doing for my wife and 6 kids. And I believe the ultimate safe haven is physical gold and silver. You can protect your hard-earned retirement assets with a tax-free loophole that allows you to convert your retirement into physical gold and silver. The folks I use are Advantage Gold, and believe me, I've investigated the heck out of all types of people. Advantage Gold is the nation's highest rated gold company. They have the best process, pricing, and service. If you want to get your free gold and silver investment kit, please contact Advantage Gold right now, and you'll see how easy it is to protect yourself with precious metals. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Call 800-900-8000.
Rosetta Stone, where language is learned. rosettastone.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Super out of time here for this show. But we got a lot more coming up for you, including we even really get to the Texas legislature stuff today, so much as I try not to make a liar out of myself with our announcement posts. But there's more things going on, including what some of the budgets are showing. Still be having the rubber hit the road there till April, so we got a minute. But also some big bills involving, well, actually what will happen with some sanitary products, let's say, which is big news to some in the state. But I'll have to leave it there for today. We've had a lot of people tuning in, chiming in, commenting throughout the show. We do appreciate everyone that took the time and truly wants to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderland, because that's what we're here for every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So until then, until next time, I do want to ask you all to stay safe out there, look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
54 Patriot southbound of the I-10. The right interchange ramp is blocked due to a crash there. On the 54 Patriot southbound of the I-10 interchange, the right interchange ramp is blocked by a crash.